Star Trek Judgment Rites is the 1994 sequel to Star Trek 25th Anniversary for MS-DOS, not just in the sense of it being another game based on that style of play, but in a rather nice touch, the first episode of the game, Federation, is an actual follow-up to 25th Anniversary's final episode, Vengeance, which saw the crew of the Starship Enterprise blow up a cheap knockoff because that's how we do things in Starfleet. Of course, after that episode, the rest of the game resumes its usual standalone episodic format, although unlike in 25th, there is something of an overarching plot that plays out and eventually culminates towards the end of the game. Nothing too deep or anything like that, but there's something there, and those who pay attention to the minor details are eventually rewarded for their keen observational skills from the old days of storytelling when the art of subtlety was still alive and kicking. Before starting the game, you'll be asked to choose your level of difficulty, of which there are 3: Federation Cadet, Cadet Graduate, or Commissioned Officer. The decision has no bearing on the landing party/adventure portions of the game, but do affect the starship combat, which remains the same as before. Stray off course by picking the wrong location on the navigational map, the names of the system found in the enclosed instruction booklet, much like the previous game, and you'll be ambushed by either Klingons, Romulans, or pirate vessels, which remain the same as in the previous game. Naturally, the higher the difficulty, the tougher the combat, but if you're not a fan of these space battles, choosing Federation Cadet will excise them from the main missions, though you'll still encounter battles if you stray off course, but they'll be easier than before, for whatever that's worth actually. When it comes to the core play mechanics, Judgment Rites is ostensibly the same game you've played in 25th Anniversary. I dare say if you have any passing familiarity with 25th, you should be able to ease into Judgment Rites with relative ease, as it's more of the same stuff. You're given a mission from Command, ordering you to some planet or outpost where you get to perform tasks and things of that nature. A typical episode of Star Trek, as it were. Only this time, your landing party isn't restricted to simply Kirk, Spock, McCoy, or Ensign Rolf in the red shirt. It depends on the episode or the situation, but other members of the cast also get their chance to shine in these landing party episodes, but that's about it really. The landing party missions play out the same way, the space combat portions also play out in the same fashion, and of course the star charts require you have the game manual to look up the names of the planets so you know where you're supposed to go, because again, if you veer off course, you're getting your ass kicked by either Klingons, Romulans, or pirates, and there are no new spacecraft to fight in these segments. Well, okay, there is a World War I era fighter plane that you get to fight in unless you're playing the easiest setting, but that's only for one episode, and yeah. In essence, when it comes to the core gameplay, Judgment Rites doesn't really change anything. It doesn't try to fix something that isn't broken, and as such, its only new contribution is giving you a new set of episodes to partake in, and generally speaking, I think the overall quality of these episodes is a little better. Slightly bigger scope sometimes, not sticking with the episodic formula of the previous game, mixes things up a bit, especially in regards to your landing party, which is still predetermined and not customizable in any way, but still there's some variety. One episode even takes place on the Enterprise herself. The final 2 episodes is essentially a two-parter of sorts. If nothing else, I tend to enjoy Judgment Rites episodes more so than in 25th, but then again, with the second go-around, you'd expect something to be a little more quality compared to what came before, and I certainly got that here. Now, diving into the gameplay once more, Judgment Rites boasts 2 parts. The first part taking place on the Enterprise bridge, where you consult with your crew or the computer database, set course for your next destination, or defend the ship against enemy attackers. You can control the ship with either the keyboard, gamepad, or a mouse, and the keyboard has shortcut keys to access specific bits like damage control, shields, weapons, and such. One new feature that was added is the ability to fly in reverse, albeit in a somewhat slow speed. This has its uses at times. Not that many, and chances are you'll likely forget about it, but it's there for those who want it. The bridge is a means to an end, the prelude to each episode, and sometimes the cockpit for your space battles, which remain the same as before. Your starships fly more like fighter planes, which is almost apropos that one of the battles you'll be fighting is against a World War I era German triplane, and is generally one of the tougher battles in the game, unless you're playing on Cadet, which skips the battle and the only reason you want to skip this battle is because you don't like fun. The other part of the game, and quite frankly the main part of the game, is the landing party / away team missions, the ground missions, the point and click adventure stuff where you interact with people, sometimes given a choice of responses that could affect your disposition, find and use items to further your current mission objectives and such. Again, this is relatively unchanged from the previous game in a gameplay sense. You're mostly using the mouse, you're occasionally given a choice of responses or actions to proceed, resulting in somewhat different consequences, both minor and major. The only thing that would change is your landing party, which will always include Kirk, while other crew might fill in the other 2 or 3 spots on said party, sometimes even more for special cases. So generally speaking, Judgment Rites shares the same basic visual style of 25th Anniversary to the point where a number of assets from the previous game are used here, mainly the Enterprise Bridge and the various character sprites. There are some new things, especially in regards to playing the enhanced version, which adds some additional video sequences, which might seem a bit archaic and somewhat pixelated today, but back in the day this was some pretty cool shit. Also, they redid the font to include lowercase letters, and I think they redid some of the ship models for the space fights. The Enterprise model seems like it got a much better render compared to its 25th anniversary appearance. Otherwise, the graphics and overall presentation remains the same as before, and it still works well enough. Like before, Judgment Right has plenty of text to read. It's an adventure game after all, and you're going to be talking with a lot of people, and there's lots of dialogue to expunge because it's Star Trek. Though if you're playing the CD-ROM version, aka the GOG.com release, when you buy it off that, you'll get the voice acting of the original cast once again, returning to voice their characters for this game.
I knew it had great significance, I just didn't know there was anyone else involved.
Some of the minor lines have been recycled from 25th Anniversary to the surprise of nobody really, but beyond that, you've got some solid performances from the crew, some of the guest characters come off as decent with some sides of cheese, couple notable vocal performances, Intro Lane voiced by the late William Campbell, who played the character back in the original series episode The Squire of Gothos.
You're no fun anymore, Kirk. No fun at all. You're preachy just like them.
And also they actually got the late Majel Barrett Roddenberry to voice the computer, which makes it feel a bit more authentic compared to the voice they had in 25th, even if it's just Majel's regular speaking voice without any filtering like they normally do on the shows. Bit of a minor quibble, but otherwise a step up. The CD version of Judgment Rites didn't get the full-blown sound upgrade that 25th Anniversary got for its CD-ROM release, however. Some of the sound effects, such as transporter beams, still use the old floppy version sound effects, which are comparatively lamer sounding, but the best you could have done back in the day, I suppose.
Damn it, I'm a doctor, not a target.
Overall, if you enjoyed Star Trek 25th Anniversary, then Star Trek Judgment Rites is more the same, and that's not a bad thing because it's more the same polished and engaging point-and-click adventure gameplay that made that earlier game such a pleasure to play, to go along with the arcadey space combat bits that are mileage varying at best, but you could toggle to a certain extent. Either way, Interplay's 2 titles are some of the finest Star Trek games ever made and are well worth playing. Given the choice between the 2, the answer is obviously play both. They're both absolutely worth playing.
If either of you had an ounce of logic, you would be more prepared to listen to my information and possibly even understand it.